This is a gravity-fed double action airbrush, which also has an adapter which can convert it into a single action if so be needed or wanted. So Sparmax dual action case, and it keeps the airbrush nice and safe when you store it away. Hello, I'm BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'll be having a closer look at the Sparmax SP-35 airbrush. Now this is a gravity-fed double action airbrush, which also has an adapter which can convert it into a single action if so be needed or wanted. Now the SP-35 has a 0.35mm nozzle, and that's suitable for most modeling needs. We generally say 0.3 is the go-to. 0.35 just means it's slightly bigger and will allow more paint flow, and that's probably good for anything to do with cars or even fine military where you're doing some pre-shading, small dots, which are quite often used in German camouflage aircraft as well. So it's a very versatile spec of airbrush, and Sparmax are quite affordable airbrushes. Now you've got your very cheap ranges, and this will fit into the next level up. So if you're looking for something a bit better built with some finer results, then Sparmax is a good way to go. Now they do make quite a few, and so this will be in their more basic range. Now let's have a closer look at the box and see what we have here. So Sparmax dual action. Now dual action basically means you've got two independent actions of the airbrush. Now everything is operated via the trigger action here. Now when the trigger is pulled back, that's actually retracting a needle in the nozzle, and the further back you pull it, the more paint that'll flow and the larger the paint area. And the closer you have it towards closed, it'll give you very fine lines or fine dots. The second part of the dual action is the control trigger when you press it down, and that controls the air pressure. So a gentle push will give you low pressure, so you can control small lines and dots, and then you can push it all the way down for full air pressure. That'll help you cover large areas. Now we have a gravity fed cup here and a cover. Now I prefer gravity fed airbrushes simply because there's a lot more control. There's nothing on the bottom here to get in the way, because quite often when you're close to a model, if you have a bottle down the bottom, it will bump into that particular area. Also, bottles here or even large cups can obstruct your view of the nozzle, so it's a bit hard to see what you're painting. And also having gravity feed means you've got a consistent paint supply through the nozzle, even when you run down low on paint. So the trouble you have with gravity feed is often when you come low with the paint inside the cup, because it's relying on suction to pull it up, it may start to spatter. So even though you can't fill this up with much paint, it's got more control, I feel. And so I prefer to refill this more often than having something large to cover a large area. If you're doing a large area, then you're probably better off with something with a big cup or even a full-size spray gun, depending on how big your project is. But for fine modeling projects, this is absolutely perfect. Okay, what do we see on the box? So there's a few different variations of the SP-35. This is the most common variation. So the basic difference would be this has a little cutout in the needle, or the I guess that's the cover. The B version has a different shape cover, and then the C version has a end stop. So that's a little extra feature which you probably don't need. I mean, you'll be paying extra for that, and it just means that you can control how far back your trigger goes. It's like a preset there. Alright, what else do we have? Alright, so we've just got a barcode there. Alright, so we might as well have a closer look inside. Now, a nice thing about these Sparmax airbrushes is they come with a nice case, and it keeps the airbrush nice and safe when you store it away. So it's not just a retail case. You actually keep it all inside, and it keeps it tidy. It's got a nice little pearl effect on the clear, and just from there you can see if everything's in place. You've got a little lock there, open it up, and then we have our airbrush with some nice firm urethane foam to keep it all together. And this comes with a couple of accessories. Okay, so there's the airbrush itself. Pop that there. And they also give you a little cleaning brush. This one here. We also have the nozzle removing tool. It's a pretty standard looking wrench. We have the additional optional valve. This is the valve which converts it to single action. Now, in my younger days, single action actually meant a different thing. So this single action is related to the air pressure. So basically what you do here is you replace the adjustable one with this fixed pressure one, and it'll be full air pressure all the time, and the only control you have would be on the needle. Now, my interpretation of it in the early days, single action was basically you still had full control of the air pressure, but you had to preset where the needle was sitting, so you didn't have the control on the paint. So this is a slightly different idea. Apart from that, we also have an optional nozzle cap. So this nozzle cap here actually has cutouts. Let's move that out of the way so I can get a closer look. And I'll zoom in here. Alright, so here is the nozzle cap as fitted. Let me see if I can get the focus a bit better. It's probably a bit better. Okay, so yes, notice the nozzle cap is totally round there. There's no cutouts at all. And that offers the most protection for your needle. The needle will be actually protruding through here. So if you accidentally drop it or touch this section, you won't bend the needle. And that's really important because the needle controls how fine your spray is going to be. Now, if I carefully take this off, you will be able to see the needle underneath. Now, I'm just going to retract this so we don't damage the needle. Okay, so you can see just the tip of the nozzle and the nozzle cap. Now, if I release the needle, you'll see it just slowly protrude. There you go. And there's a needle coming through. You can see, if you didn't have a nozzle cap on it, you can quite easily bend that. And so that's the operation of the needle. All right, so I'm just going to retract it and we'll put on the optional one. So here's the optional one with the cutouts. And you may see a lot of fine airbrushes with these kinds of nozzle caps on them. Now, the idea of having them like so is, you can just see the needle there now, is you still have protection on the needle, but with fine work, you're actually very close to the surface. So when you're this close, say, to my finger, if you had the full cap on, it'll actually be blowing the paint everywhere. It'll start spidering because of the pressure going onto the surface. The idea with the cutouts is it reduces the air pressure along the surface, meaning that air can escape around the sides. So there's your cutout. So it's got 4 cutouts, so this is like a crown style. And that's the optional cap. Okay, let's take that off and we'll put back the original one and we'll look at some of the other features since we've got the zoom in place. Alright, so that cap goes on easily just like that. Now what we have is a 3mm cap. Actually, I should say cup. There's a cap there. So the caps are pressure fit, and you'll notice there's a hole down the center. So you always need a hole in the cap so that air can flow when you're spraying. If there's no hole there, it will create a stop in the flow of the air, and the paint just won't spray out of the nozzle. So make sure that never gets blocked up, because occasionally, if you're not careful, you'll have splash paint blocking that hole and your painting experience would not be very good. Okay, we'll take that off. Having a look inside the cup, you can see how thick the chroming is on the body. And thick chrome is good because that basically means you'll be able to keep it clean very easily, and it'll be quite tough. So smallish cup, so quite a bit of control. Got the Sparmax laser etched into the side, SP-35. Here is your trigger. Trigger actually feels quite smooth. And pulling back as well. Now on some inferior airbrushes, you'll feel that these particular areas here aren't machined particularly well, and they can catch. And what you want is quite a smooth action, particularly if you want to do tapered lines, so that you don't have a stick action like this, which will mean your tapered line won't be very smooth. So this feels quite good. Feeling down the pressure, it's quite smooth too. There's a little code there, and then we have the handle. I think a handle looks quite smart with this little cutout. It's not absolutely necessary. I think it's more a aesthetic feature because you won't be loosening off this nut here. This is a nut that holds the needle in place. It's a little grasp nut. Okay, why don't we go ahead and dismantle this and I'll show you what it's all about. Okay, so, well, that's already off. You've got the cap there. That's the optional valve. You've got your optional nozzle cap. So what we'll do is we'll just unscrew the handle. Just come off like so. We undo this nut. It just needs to be loosened so that you can release the needle. Now when you take out the needle, you be very careful for the tip because you don't want that damaged at all, because you can see how pointy that is, and that will control how fine your spray is going to be. From there we can take off our nozzle cap and then the nozzle cover. And there we go, we've got the nozzle in place there. So if I get in tight, so this particular nozzle design is quite common. You see that it's got flat sections, and that is where you'll be using the spanner for undoing. So just make sure that the spanner fits in those flats, like so. And that can be, you turn anti-clockwise to remove it. But you have to be careful that when you put these back on, that you only put it on with finger pressure, and then you tighten it up with the slightest amount, and you'll be moving the spanner maybe, if we talk about clock movements, then maybe to 1 o'clock, very slightly. The thing is, if you apply too much pressure on these, you can break the threads, and if the threads break within the airbrush, there's very little chance that you'll be able to get that out. It's practically throwing away the airbrush then. Okay, so you can see how easy that was to take apart. And just to put it back together again, okay, so we'll follow this order. Nozzle cover. Needle cap or nozzle cap. The needle. I always put my finger here just to guide the needle in place so it doesn't bend. And then gently push it until it reaches the nozzle. Okay, so that's at the nozzle. And then the smallest of taps. And then tightening up the knurl nut. And that holds the needle in place. So as you can see here, as I pull back on the trigger, the whole needle action moves. Okay, and next we put the handle back on. That's just screwed on. And that's back together. Now what I'll do now is I'll just quickly show you, I'm going to attach it to some air. I've got a quick release fitting there, which I'll just quickly put on. And I'll show you what the difference is between these air valves. Okay, it's slightly out of focus there, but that'll be okay. I'm going to pick it up soon. All right, so I have my quick release, which is mounted onto a secondary filter, which is a water trap and dust filter. Also have a Mac valve on there too for extra fine adjustment of the air pressure. If I connect this up here, there you go. Now let's see if we can pick this up with the sound. Now if I press this slowly, lightly, you hear the air. So gentle press, it's It's very low pressure. Slightly more. And full. So hopefully you can hear all that. So that's fully adjustable, right? So that's where you've got your adjustment in your air pressure there. It is very sensitive though, so you'll need a bit of practice to control the low end. But even there, you can hear that. So I'll put it up here. I'll put it up against the microphone. And you hear that full variation in spray pattern. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we'll take that off and we will fit on the other valve. Okay, so we'll take off our quick release there. Now this adjustable valve screws straight off. And you'll see in the center there's the valve which controls the airflow. Now we're going to swap it over for this one, which in contrast has nothing in the center. There's no airflow adjustment at all. So once we screw this in, it's going to be full pressure, and that's what the single action is going to be. The only action you'll be able to control is the actual flow with the needle. Okay, so actually we'll need to put that back on, the quick release. And once we fit it on here, and you can hear that's full bore. There's no control of the air, that's fully locked, but you can control the paint flow. And what you hear there is the difference in the sound in the suction as you open the nozzle. Okay, so that'll be full flow, that's low flow, but no control of the air pressure. But I guess with one of these, you can just hear my compressor kicking in, just to fill up the tank again. You could control it with the Mac valve if you had one of these. Now this particular quick release is made by 9 steps. Very handy to have, so you'll get this with an additional adapter for another airbrush. Now I'll just see if I can wait until the... Actually it probably won't stop because this is fully on. Now if I screw this in, you'll hear now that I've actually stopped it. And that's with control of the air valve from the Mac valve. And you can hear as I open it, you can adjust the air pressure from this point. Okay, so that's off. Let's put it up to my microphone, that's off. And as I screw this out, you can hear the adjustment in air there. Okay, so that's another option for you. If you didn't have this, then this will be at full power air pressure all the time. So interesting that they've given you that option. Let's put that back over there. So there we go. So that is the Sparmax SP-35. It's a great starting airbrush. Now if you had a much cheaper airbrush and you're looking for something with better quality, then this is for you. Feels really nice. It's got nice build quality. Parts are readily available. Smallish cup. Got the cap there. And there we go. So there you go. That's the Sparmax SP-35. If you enjoyed this review, please give me a like below. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments. And if you want to see some more content like this, then please think about subscribing. There's tons of videos in our channel. So thank you for watching.